Okay, thank you all so much for joining us today. We were just figuring out a few technical things with our presenters today. But we are so happy that all of you joined us today. I'm just going to do a really quick intro again. Welcome to the Public School Library Partnership Lightning Talks. If you can keep your microphones muted during the presentations, and then we will make sure to have plenty of time for Q&A at the end of the presentations. And you can feel free to put questions in the chat as well, and we'll do our best to get to those. And so just very quickly, the training today, there were a total of 18 public and school librarians. The Department of Library helped support in attending the Library Journal, School Library Journal Resilient Together Building School and Public Partnerships training, which was a 3-week online training in October. There were some those who attended as an existing partnership with the public and school librarian, and then others who attended independently. And so we are going to be able to hear from folks who attended today. I did not attend the training, so I'm just here to host, but I'm excited to hear from everybody and what folks learned from the training. So we will go ahead, so that we have time for everyone, we will go ahead and get started. Laurie is going to go ahead and present, and we didn't discuss it, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself quickly and then take it away.
All right. As I'm attempting to share my slides here, my name is Laurie Williams, and I came on board with this with Mary Burnham from Tenney Memorial Library in Newberry. I'm the school librarian at Newberry Elementary School, and she is the librarian at Tenney Memorial Library in Newberry. We're on the Connecticut River Valley, Orange County, on the opposite side of the state from all the big cities. We're in a very rural little place. So we signed on to this together. We've had an existing partnership in the past, but it's just been very just here and there with things. It's funny, we're about 4 blocks, or maybe 3 blocks away from each other in the little village of Newberry. So there's really the opportunity to even share students between the two of us. So first, a thank you to the Vermont Department of Libraries for sponsoring our ability to work together on this, to take this class together and to do some work together and to do some thinking about how we can join up and do some more stuff that will benefit our community. We went right into an action plan. You know, all those weeks they were talking about, what's your action plan? How do you think this is going to work? And so we came up with one that we just want to work together to increase K-6 literacy opportunities and promote the development of early literacy skills in our community through grants, family community activities, and summer reading programs. We did a little bit of an assessment of our needs and concerns, and both of us are just part-time librarians at very small libraries. Newberry has 90 students, and Tenney, Newberry itself is a small town. So we're small libraries, and we're both just part-time in those positions. We are the only staff at our locations, and we are, like, in my school time, there's no time allotted or allowed for anything program development wise or grant writing wise. It's all focused in on different things. So there's really not any time allowed in my schedule for program development. And of course, we have to look for buy-in from boards and admin and funding. So with all those concerns, we were listening to all the pieces that people were putting together in these, what they were talking about, and hearing, things from all these really huge libraries, these metropolitan libraries, and just trying to say, well, what are the pieces we can pick from that with little or no funding, and what are we getting encouraged to do or pick up again that we've already done? So our action plan, basically, we're going to try to build on our current successes. We're going to try to write some of those Cliff grants, just like everybody here. We're going to try to do a story walk and a poetry walk. And we're going to really try to work on our summer reading program to keep kids reading during the summer. Some of our current successes, Tenny does the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And I don't know if you've all heard of this, but basically they fundraise for postage, and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library sends a book a month to children birth to pre-K, birth before they come to school. So kids are getting books in Newberry. They're getting books when they are young to read and enjoy with their families. And so that's a hugely successful program. So we talked about ways we could build on that. And you can see some of those things that we've got listed there. We already do have some collaborative programs, but how can we, without really having to invest any funding, come up with some ideas of how to connect with them? We've got a great after school program that has a woodworking program as part of it. So can they build little libraries? Can we resume pre-K story times, both in the school and having them walk from the school over to the library? Things like that. Great quote. Oh my gosh, this is my brother's favorite book. I have to get it so we can partner read. Her little brother got a book from Dolly Parton. It was in my library at school. This third grader was so excited to make that connection. We're going to try to apply for Cliff Grant, Year of the Book, Summer Readers. I know I've got 5 minutes, that's why I'm going fast, but it's all on the slides there. We just bought some forest property that's within walking distance of the village. So we're going to work on a story walk and a poetry walk together. Again, we can get donations of lumber. We can get donations for the books. Just something we can do to bring the community together in this new space, something families can do together. We're going to try to work on our summer reading stuff. Again, Cliff Grant, but also, again, this whole thing got us thinking about, how can we both advocate for our work that we do separately and together? And one of them was, why can't I bring school library classes to Tenny Memorial Library 4 blocks away, get those kids into that library so it becomes a natural flow for them in the summer to just keep using that, or even over winter break, any break, try to get them into the town library. A lot of kids don't ever get there. Get them in there, maybe get the paperwork to get them signed up, especially with the online sorts of things. We're going to do the Vermont Department of Libraries Ocean of Possibilities program. And then just, again, some other programming, things that we tried to think of that aren't going to cost money that we could do together. Just want to say thank you again to everybody. Here's our contact information. And of course, it was it really got us thinking. It got us thinking immediately about an action plan, or what are the little things we could do? Because a lot of what we heard, even with big programs with lots of staffing, don't necessarily have partnerships. For us, it almost we're glad we're small. It kind of makes it easier for us to be able to say, you know what, we want to do this. Here's how we're going to do this. And there's not a lot of other staff we have to bring on board to help us out with it. But with our boards, they're going to want to see that collaboration, especially if it doesn't cost a lot of money. So that's what we're shooting for. And that's the end of that presentation.
Thank you so much, Laurie. And are you able to, could you share that, the link in the chat?
Oh, to the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
If not, we will share things out afterwards too, but if that's something you're able to do, that's fantastic.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really exciting to hear all those ideas and so many things that are so much overlap and so many ways that you're working together. So up next, we have Caroline.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Caroline Carico. I'm the librarian at the North Hero Public Library, and I attended this course with the North Hero school librarian, Kyle Koch. She is unable to be at this meeting because she's at a school meeting. But I wanted to just start with a little background on us. I had actually started a relationship with the school the year before COVID. And we got lots of kids signed up for library cards. We hadn't really gotten any of our big ideas to take off yet, but we did apply for the Rural Libraries Grant together. And we were awarded that grant, and that is really what helped build our school and public library relationship. The librarian that I was working with at the time left, and then Kyle, the current librarian, came on mid-COVID, mid-grant, which was kind of bonkers, but she was really willing and excited to work together. And it was great to kind of have the push from Cliff to work on this project together. And our relationship, fortunately, has just taken off from there. And so after we started attending these sessions, we would meet each Friday after the class to kind of debrief and discuss our takeaways. Like Laurie said, it was hard to apply some of these things to our libraries because we are so small. I'm a solo librarian. Kyle is also a solo librarian covering 2 schools. One is pre-K to 6th, and the other is pre-K to 8th. But we did find some things that we thought would work for us. After the week 1 sessions, we had talked about the possibility of each incoming student to the North Hero School automatically being issued a public library card. The parents could have kind of an opt-out option if for some reason they wouldn't want their kids to have a card. The school fortunately already has an Overdrive Sora account. So that was really exciting to hear that the kids were already familiar in using that program, because that sounded like a really neat program. And then the public library has just finished its strategic plan report, and we just put it out to the public last week. And we had spoken to the school staff about what they would like to see from the library as a part of creating our strategic plan. And so one of our goals that we created in working with Kyle was to host a kind of North Hero School staff open house during one of their in-service days, so they could get what they needed to get done at school and then come down to the library, have lunch, and we can just kind of give them a little tour and show them what we have to offer outside of books, because I don't think a lot of them have been able to come into the library. After week 2, our big takeaway was using the punch card bookmarks. I think this would be a really fun thing to use during summer reading program. You know, the kids come in once a week, they get their bookmark punched. There's 10 weeks, you know, and then get a book every time or at the end of the summer. And we really loved hearing about all of the things that the Las Vegas library was doing. I mean, the QR codes on the buses and all of the advertising they were able to do was amazing, but we have 0 public transportation here. But it was fun to learn about what they were doing for that. And the last thing we took away from week 2 was that we would both like to see our relationship become a part of each of our job descriptions. We felt like that would really help hold ourselves accountable, and then also have that relationship built in case one of us leaves. In week 3, that seemed kind of like the most unrelatable for either of us. We felt like we are in a pretty good place in our relationship, even though the partnership is still new. We do not have a need for contracts or MOUs yet, but like I said, we're hoping to kind of build that into each of our job descriptions. And then we also did like the idea of the Beanstack tandems to get their kids reading, and hopefully we can use it to kind of get the rest of our community in, since we are the 2 really only educational institutes in our area. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I appreciate it. I really think you talked about the changing the job descriptions well, not changing, but putting it in collaboration with school and for the school librarian with the public library. I think that's really great idea. Because sometimes these partnerships start, but then like you talked about, there's turnover, and then if that is one way that could help keep that going.
And for us, it seemed like it was an easy way to do that. It seemed like an easy fix to ensure that this relationship continues.
Yeah, as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, of course, that's simple, but sometimes it's not something that necessarily think of. So that's a really great idea. So appreciate all your thoughts on that. And up next, we have Mariah. Hopefully we're able to figure out the tech issues we were having.
Yeah, so Mariah, you try to share, and if it doesn't work, I have Mariah's presentation, and you can just direct me to change slides.
Okay, yeah, it's not working still. So
okay, let me pull it up.
Okay, awesome. And I'm gonna be also, we didn't add this in, but it's a bonus here because Pura and Veronica we're all presenting together, and we'll introduce ourselves, but the three of us were able to mesh our schedules finally and work this out. So
excellent.
Yeah, so my name's Mariah Lawrence, and I am the public librarian at the Tunbridge Library. And I don't know, is Veronica, that's you, right? VF? She was having trouble signing in. So I know Pura's here.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, awesome. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves, or should I just introduce you?
Sure. I am Veronica Golden. I am the director of the Chelsea Public Library in beautiful Chelsea, Vermont. I am pretty new, but super excited. I actually joined this program and applied for it like while I was meeting everyone and hadn't even met Pura or Mariah yet. So it was like a happy circumstance that they were both involved in this program and already like ready to go.
And I'm Pura Scott. I'm the librarian media specialist at the Tunbridge Central School and also at the Chelsea Public School. So I split my week between both schools, which makes it, we're the Threes Company here. So I'm the in-between for both libraries.
Awesome. Yeah, and I should point out that I'm also new. So all three of us are brand new to our positions, less than a year. And I think that actually is making this even more awesome to connect because we're all like learning the job and putting this into the job. So I don't know if I'm sorry you took the slides down. I don't know if it's we're actually ready for them now. So
okay, I was like, I guess I should let people see their faces while they're introducing themselves, and I took the slides down. But I'm bringing them back.
Okay, all right. So that was sort of like the page where we were introducing ourselves. You can go to the next one now.
Okay.
Okay, this was you, Veronica, right?
Yeah. So one of the main takeaways that I gleaned was this sort of collaborative collection development. And I really liked that idea. So what's happening in Chelsea and Tunbridge next year in the fall is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mariah and Laura, along the way, is that rather than having two K through 8 schools in Chelsea and Tunbridge, what they're going to be doing is splitting them up. So in Tunbridge, there's going to be K through 4, and in Chelsea, there will be 5 through 8. So what I was thinking is rather than duplicating efforts, we all have finite budgets. And so thinking about the collection development that Pura is going to do in Chelsea for 5 through 8, in collaboration with my collection development so that they're complementary moving forward, and vice versa for Mariah, so like my K through 4 collection might be more robust because I have to cover all of that in my town. But, Yeah, I was thinking if we do it more cooperatively, then our spending can be wiser, and we can have complementary collections. So that's really like a great thing that I had gleaned from this, particularly because budgets are tight. Anything else to add?
Well, that, and I like the fact of that all three of us can work together to help Pura actually move her books. I mean, that felt like we should definitely collaborate to make that happen, because there's also 4 children at my door, just so everyone knows. Sorry. We're ready for the This is just multitasking at its best. So one of the biggest things that this hasn't happened to me before. Of all the things I've done online, I have not had them actually come in during the thing. So this feels like very embarrassing. So one of the biggest things I found right away was just to show up. Like, I felt like that was such a huge point. It's so obvious, but so huge. And as soon as I started going to these meetings, I found like pieces that I could easily help, and spaces where the library could just be a space for everybody. I went to a parent club meeting, and that night we decided to make an art show at the library. Like, it was a kid art show, which is now up in the library. So that was really, she's patting the dog. And then, going to the select board meetings and bringing up the collaboration was really helpful. And just also, we're part of the school club's fundraiser efforts now. So just showing up to the meetings, showing my face, getting to know what people are doing, that was really huge and helpful. And then I also wrote Recess, because I've been doing an outreach program, and just being around the kids every time I go to the school, and I'm not even exaggerating, like, we get at least 3 new families. We've had 3 to 5 new families sign up to get library cards every single time I come to the school. And it just feels like that's just such a simple way to connect. And even Pura came out. It's just, it's a nice way to collaborate. Next slide. Oh, here's some pictures of those lovely things. So yeah, I bring my golden chair to the school when I go. That's what those Polaroid pictures are of. I have this spray painted golden chair, and when you learn to read, we put you in the Reading Hall of Fame. And so I brought my chair to show it off and, entice them to come to the public library. And then the little picture on the bottom is the after school program. You can go to the next slide. Was this one of you guys want to take?
I think this one was me.
Okay.
So like we talked about, I am split between the 2 schools. That is new for both of our schools. So I replaced 2 different librarians in 2 different locations. And as Veronica said, we are also changing the schools. So that means that I'm going to have to convert 2 K-8s into a elementary library, one at one side, and a middle school library at the other. So it involves some strategic moving of the collection, which I'm really thankful that I'll get some help in the actual physical movement, and hopefully just the collection, just taking a look at the collection and seeing what needs to go where. Like, I'll have some extra voices to help me with that if I have some questions. It's been a really nice partnership so far, and it's been really hard for us to get together, but it's just really nice that I can kind of push after school programs different places, or if I have ideas, we can kind of collaborate with that really easily. Veronica has really helped me take over some middle school after school clubs that wanted to happen, but there was no time or availability since I'm between both schools. I literally can't be at both places. So she's taken over like our D&D club, and they have a space there to live, which is awesome, because it gets them out there. And I'm always vocal about my local libraries, because I like to model my school libraries as a public library. This is just a stepping board to your public library. So we don't just sit around staring at books. I like to let them know that the library is a place that you can do all sorts of things, like play chess, or have a club meeting, or, color, or discover things, or do your taxes like we talked about this weekend. So I just want the kids to know that that's like a safe space that's not just for books, because let's be honest, not all kids love sitting down and being forced to read. And I think sometimes that's what they think is going to happen. So if I can model that in my libraries, and then post what's going on at the local library and really promote them getting out there too, then it lets them know that that's not just a place for reading, it's a place for community. So that's kind of what has been going on with me. It has been hard with COVID stuff to get more people in. Even when Mariah is here, most of the things that she did were outside. I'm pushing back a little more to get more volunteers in to be able to be in the buildings, but some of those things, my hands are tied, so it has been hard. We are talking about having our former librarian come back in with Mariah in conjunction to do Red Clover instruction when I'm not here at the elementary school, when I'm actually at what will be the middle school. So starting in the spring, and I actually touched base with our former librarian about that this week. So hopefully they will be getting in and providing more instruction and exposure on those days when I'm actually in Chelsea. They'll be here in Tunbridge, and hopefully we can work something out like that in Chelsea as well. I think you're on the next slide.
Yeah, next slide. Thank you. Oh, just, pictures are wonderful. So I put more of those on there. I think because next I was going to talk about the after school program. That's why. Yeah. So I think that the number one thing for us was the reason I signed up for to do this class, which was really helpful and inspiring, was because I had started this after school program. I worked with the One Planet program, our after school program, and 22% of the kids at Tunbridge School came. And so it's been really easy for me to convince the trustees that this is the best use of our time, is to work with the school. And also what Pura was saying, that, like the self-directed methods, which was basically what we did at the after school program. We had like chess, Legos, fiber group, and book buddies, and you could pick where you wanted to be. And so that's the model that Pura is already using in her library time. So, it was really easy to just continue that. And I think Veronica has already spoken to the D&D club, which can't wait to send my kids to. And I just love that, the connection of like them just having the conversation. So just continuing the conversation, finding out what needs to be done. And otherwise, if, that's how these things come up, is just when you show up and speak to people, you realize how easy it is to be good partners. And next slide. Oh yeah. So going forward, we decided we're going to try to meet monthly, even though combining a school librarian and public librarian schedules, as we all know from making this meeting time work, it's really hard to do. But even just a half-hour touching base in the future, once a month, will do wonders for us. So, but I also just want to say really quick, I really loved hearing the other two talks. I'm so excited to try to use some of those tactics. So really good ideas on the job description and the automatic public library card. I love those ideas. So thank you all.
Thank you so much. Really fantastic ideas. Again, just we can really feel the energy, and like you were saying, that you're just bouncing so many things to each other and cross promoting, and because like you said, it can be really difficult to coordinate, and sometimes it's that thing. And also, Mariah, something what you said, just showing up is really big. Just like, even if it's just like to whenever you can, to be able to go be present, go to meetings, if you can go to an event that's happening at the school or vice versa, even if it's here and there, to have sort of a sense of what's going on. That's really great. So thank you all for that. And next we will have Abby present.
Cool. So I am Abby Pasquins, Youth Services Librarian at the Deborah Rawson Memorial Library over in Jericho, Vermont. My partner, Nicole Thompson, who is the school librarian for the middle school, which is like a hop, skip, and a jump that way from us, is doing a club right now. So I've got a brief presentation to share with you. All right. You guys see what I'm showing?
Yes.
All right, Cool. So I'm going to talk to you about really exciting things like strategic plans, because that's what my brain really latched onto as we were going through this course. So building that relationship between schools and public libraries into your strategic plan as it comes up to update them. We know planning pays off. One of the first things they told us in this course is that, off-the-cuff projects are great, they're filling gaps, but they don't have that high value that you're looking for in a longer lasting, sustained partnership. They cautioned us against diving in and going into crisis control, which I think we've all been in crisis control for about 2 years now. So it was nice to hear, yes, take that step back and sit down and make some plans looking into the future, project your goals, and figure out what's going to have the highest impact for your community. So be future thinking. It can be really hard to do these days, but if you let it, it can also be fun to, do that pie in the sky. Where do you want to be in a few months? In a few months, one of our goals was to have at least one collaborative program together. In a half a year, it's going to be summertime, so supporting each other through the summer reading program. And in a couple of years, making sure that these things that we are building are built in a sustainable way so that they can keep going if they keep working. I just really enjoyed this statement, and I feel so bad. I don't remember which presenter it was that gave it. I think it was in the first week, but they said that strategic planning is an act of advocacy. It can be really hard to think of all the ways that you want to advocate for your library. And I had just never considered the idea that getting your plans written down is a way to do that kind of advocacy. It seemed so simple. I was also really struck when the presenters were talking about strategic planning, about how you can really increase your clout as a school or a public library by defining those partnerships in that plan. When you're a public library and you mention your school library in your strategic plan, you're saying, look, we need these guys. They are absolutely indispensable, and our collaboration with them is really valuable to our community. By saying that, you can show your library board, your school board, your community, your parents, your teachers, your students, that you guys are working together for the best for all of your students. And it can also, having that in writing, having that just kind of official feeling to it, can also help your library advocate for improvements. Hey, look at this collaboration we've got going on. Because of this, we need more space. Or, we are really valuing this collaboration. Here are the ways we intend to keep it going. We need more staffing. So I thought that, using that document that, oftentimes just gets shelved for 5 years until you need it again, to function like this, to increase clout and to, help do that advocacy work. I thought that was a really cool way to use a strategic plan document. They also talked about using I or we statements when you're writing strategic plans or mission statements or vision statements. I thought that was also really interesting and a new way of thinking things. We so often speak with the voice of the library, but we can really humanize the things that school libraries are facing or public libraries are facing when we use the I, we statements. In reality, it's not the building that, needs I keep thinking of more space because I really, really want more space personally. So it's not the building that needs more space. I need more space for collections, for programs, for places to play and things like that. And I feel like when you personalize these missions, these visions, these strategic plans, it's easier to get buy-in because it feels less like, you are advocating for a company or a business or a corporation, and more like you are advocating for a community space in your community. I haven't tried converting our mission statements or things in our strategic plan to I-we statements yet, because it's like, it was such a new idea to me. And you have to really change the wording around to make it really, really track. But it's a good brain exercise. Another thing that I pulled was, if your vision is cloudy, if your strategic plan is cloudy, then it's harder to determine where you're going in the future. If there are parts of your policies or parts in your strategic plan that have been ignored for the 5 years that you've been moving forward on this plan, maybe that's a signal that those are not priorities anymore and it's time to prune them out. Or if something cropped up, like a pandemic, and you had to create entirely new policies and procedures for it, maybe it's time to include some of that emergency planning we never thought that we would need into the next 5-year plan. I also really liked this quote. Once again, I did a terrible job attributing things. With a plan, success is scalable and failure can be averted or addressed. I really like the idea of success being scalable. It makes me feel like it's okay to start small and use what I learned from a successful small program to grow it bigger and bigger, as needed. And the idea that, failure isn't just a be-all, end-all. No one came to this program. We can never do this kind of program again. Changing the thinking from, well, what can be addressed about why that program failed. I'm thinking of a digital author visit that I had in the spring, and it was one of the first gorgeous sunny days. No one came to my author visit because everybody was outside. It's hard to predict the weather, but it's something that could be addressed. So things like that. Another thing that's important is to keep things up to date. We've kind of lost the last 2 years. I'm still convinced it's 2020 and I can't believe it's time to update the strategic plan. But it's important to do. And if your plan is current and your collaborations are recorded in that plan, then you can avoid losing a bunch of institutional knowledge when a job changes or personnel changes. So I came into this position like 3 weeks before the pandemic started, and it wasn't really written down anywhere who, the previous person in this position was collaborating with and what kinds of things that they were doing. They were just things that had always been done and we assumed would always keep going. And then there was this interim where the library was without a youth services person and things kind of dropped off and got lost by the wayside. So like what I wouldn't have given to come into this, and it would have been overwhelming to be handed a plan and like, here are all the people we collaborate with and how. But it also would have been a nice roadmap to have. So this is all great, but what kinds of things should I put in my plan? Some of the things that I got from our course was the list of current partners, what you do together, and the contact information for those people, like as updated as possible, and a list of stakeholders in your community. I was pretty new to this community, so I didn't know if they had a Boy Scout troop or a Rotary Club or any other civic organizations like that. So just having a list like that to look through and be like, here are other partners and stakeholders in our community that I could reach out to or that have already been reached out to. It gives you a bit of more awareness of what your collaborations are and have been, so that way you're not leaning too hard on the Boy Scouts to build you more shelves or things like that. And you can put in that I, we, mission, vision statement, if you can figure out exactly how you want to phrase it. You can put in the forward thinking stuff. What are your goals for the future? How do you want to achieve them? And if there are any pieces of quantitative data to go with it, what are your targets? We want to increase circulation by 22% or what have you. And those quantitative things, as well as all of the stories and the beautiful pictures that we get, show how our partnerships can really benefit our community. Seeing those images from Chelsea and Tunbridge, it was like, yeah, that's like, it's so obvious from the joy radiating out of those pictures that there's a huge community benefit there. One of the first things they talked about is, remembering your partner is a regular human too. And it's important to be transparent. If you are at the library or at the school and you need to talk about budget things, or you need to talk about so-and-so who is, difficult to work with, it might be easier to go for a walk in the woods and take off the school librarian hat or the public librarian hat for a minute and just hear your partners out. I want to give a huge shout out to all of the school librarians out there right now. I am astounded by all of the hats that you guys are wearing, all of the things that you are doing that you've been asked to do before or never asked to do before. This past 2 years has been just absolutely wild. So really appreciating that human aspect of everybody. And of course, in the end, we want to show people what a modern library can be. It's not just the books, it's that space. It's the tools that we lend, and the community presence that we have and can contribute to. And then this is just my contact information and Nicole's contact information. There is an underscore between youth and librarian in my email address, and then it autofills the underline thing, so that gets lost. So if you get a mailer demon, that's why. But yeah, that's those were all the things that I pulled out of this presentation. So thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Really appreciate that. A lot of really great things. Again, that idea of building it into the big structure is really great. To have that built, the language around partnerships built into strategic planning is, I think, really important and maybe missing for some libraries and organizations. So we have Sarah Keener was not able to join us today. Something came up at the last minute, but she shared a great video that Jennifer is going to play for us. It's just a short 4-minute presentation, and there's also a PDF that we'll throw in the chat as well. So we'll go ahead and play that, and we'll put the links in there in the chat too. Thanks, Jennifer.
I am here today to report for the lightning talks for the Resilient Together Building School and Public Library Partnership sponsored by the Vermont Department of Libraries. My name is Sarah Keener, and I'm going to be talking about the partnership in Hardwick between Hazen Union School Library and the Judavine Memorial Library. Participants were Diane Grankow, the Judavine Youth Librarian, and I partnered with her as the Hazen School Librarian, and Hazen serves grades 7 through 12 in Hardwick and surrounding areas. Some takeaways from the workshop that we'd like to share. First, start small. Build trust and find partners at partner libraries that you can work closely with. Establish regular meetings with those partners. Assess needs and opportunities together, and build capacity slowly. So make sure that you can sustain the work that you're doing. Number 2, we serve the same community. So look at shared resources that we might be able to offer to our patrons, enlist volunteers, find ways to fill in the gaps with services or materials in different libraries, work together to collaborate and help on projects, and be creative. So looking ahead at next steps for our school and public library partnership in Hardwick. The vision, the Hazen Judavine Partnership supports the OSSU commitment to individual and community health and well-being. And a quote from the ALA Public Library and School Library Collaboration Toolkit that we think represents this shared interest. Both public and school libraries are community centers at heart with the same goal: to provide a safe, welcoming environment for all patrons and access to information in a variety of formats. When public and school librarians and library workers engage in collaboration, community members reap the benefits. So our goal then is to initiate a working partnership with the local public library to support and improve equitable and open access to resources and services within our school and community at large. And so Diane and I, for objectives this year, our objectives are to establish a framework for the library partnership, to develop and commit to 2 collaborative initiatives for the 2021-22 school year, and to continue to research public and school library partnerships to explore future possibilities for our libraries. And so action items are to identify needs and resources and create a strategic plan. We have begun that through this workshop. To plan and implement Vermont Reads programming for the community. We have also started with that. We're beginning the Sora Libby Library Connect program to share ebook and audiobook collections via Overdrive, and we are close to being complete on that action item, and to identify resources and model school public library partnerships to learn from. So I think there are a number of strong programs in Vermont that we would like to visit and hear more about. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Excellent. Thanks for playing that, Jennifer. And thanks for Sarah for creating that video and sharing it, and the resources which we put in the chat, even though she was not able to join us today. That is everyone who was going to share with us today. I know that at least a couple people had to leave earlier, but we have a few minutes left if there's any questions that anyone has for any of the presenters, or any general questions that you would like to put out there. You can turn on your camera or your mic put a question in the chat. And again, just thank you so much to all of our presenters. We know everyone is incredibly busy. I want to second what Abby said about, especially with everyone working in schools right now, is just everyone is doing an incredible amount of work, and you know, this is just one extra thing. So we appreciate those who took the time to join us and share their insights on collaboration. And I know that I have been inspired by what has been shared today of, you know, just really simple things, taking small steps and putting things into motion to make efforts to begin and to continue collaborations. It seems like, yeah, we may not have any questions. Maybe all the presenters, who are still with us, you're able to pop your videos back on for a second. So we may not have any other questions. We'll give it another minute or so, and that is fine. We did record this today, so we can share that as well, and then we will share out. If those who presented it, if you haven't already, you can send me your, if you had a PowerPoint or any resources, you can send it to me and we'll share it out to everyone. So again, thank you so much for those who presented on what you learned at this training, and for all of those who joined us today for the lightning talks. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good day.